of love and kindness, who cares about all human beings and wants just the best for everyone, how many people he killed according to his own holy book. And not only that, but how many more people he ordered his followers to kill. Now, in the past, I've read this list sort of, to Christians to say, wake up, look what your holy book actually says. And I think I've learned in the time since then that just doesn't work, because most people who follow that religion think, why, yes, God can, murder people whenever he feels like.
Yeah, I brought you into this world, I can take you out.
Yeah, they think that's perfectly okay. We happen to not, and I hope most people of goodwill think that no matter what the conditions are, hauling off and killing people just, because you don't like what they're doing, is not a terribly good thing. So anyway,
I actually make a slight distinction there.
Yeah.
In that it may be true, for example, if there is a super God who created everybody, it may be true that he has an inherent right to destroy his creation.
How would that be?
Well, I mean, in the whole idea of he made it, he can destroy it.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
But the thing is, you can't give him that right and claim that it's morally correct to do so. He may have some, you could make an argument that he has an authority over that.
You can certainly make an argument, if the God existed, that he might have the power to do that.
Sure.
But I think, you just run yourself a little thought experiment. What if a human being, a human biologist, managed to put together a thinking being by entirely by science and biochemistry? Would he then have the right to just haul off and kill that fella just because he felt like it? I would say no. It seems to me that human rights are, that's assuming the thing he made was a human. Let me extend that to rights for thinking beings, to include any, potential space aliens who might be out there watching the show. That all thinking beings have basic rights, which include not being just killed by some authoritarian monarch just because the guy feels like it. Anyway, I don't have chapters and verses for these things, but most people out there either have a Bible or can find one at any hotel. I just want to go down the list and give you what the totals are, because I just think this is extremely revealing about the actual nature of the entity which humans and Jews claim to
Humans
worship.
and Jews?
I'm sorry, Christians. Thank you.
I was going to say, which show did I get on today? That was a funny
I was
slip.
thinking aliens, and I got confused. All right, so these are the murders committed personally by the God himself. Everyone in the whole world except for Noah and his family. Lot's wife. All of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah except for Lot, who was considered good because he offered his virgin daughters to a mob of men and then slept with both of them himself later. God burned all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, according to the Bible. Judah's firstborn son, Er's brother Onan, the firstborn of all of Egypt, the Pharaoh and all of his army in the Red Sea. Nadab and Abihu were killed by God because he was upset that they made a fire. Some Jews were burned for complaining. A plague was sent against the Jews for being greedy. Another plague was sent to the Jews who gave the chosen land a bad report. That killed 11 of said Jews. Korah and the other Jews who didn't like Moses were killed. 14,700 Jews killed by a plague sent by God, apparently for the hell of it. Many Jews were killed by serpents that God sent. Some unspecified number of Philistines. 50,070 Jews who looked in the Ark of the Covenant. That, I think, is a hilarious one, because if you're like the second Jew in line, you don't look. It's the first guy opens up the box and vaporizes I
They
think
didn't all look in. It was like
Yeah?
some looked in, and all of them were punished.
Oh, okay.
See, that's the
Some
thing
of them
about
weren't
this.
even responsible. Probably
yeah.
a vast
No,
number
no,
of them
no.
were not even responsible. They were just in the vicinity.
This God doesn't
They
care.
were caught in the
who's
blast.
Yeah, this God doesn't care who's responsible. When it came time to flood the whole earth except for Noah, it didn't matter if there was a baby in some town that might have been innocent, and it didn't matter.
Nabal was killed for scorning David. Uzzah was killed for touching the ark, which he did only because he was trying to keep it from falling.
What a moron. You should have
David
known you can't hurt that thing.
David and Bathsheba's child, killed by God. 70,000 people killed by a pestilence sent by God because David sinned. 102 were killed by fire sent down on Azahiah's men. Bears, at God's command, killed 42 children because they mocked Elisha. God sent lions to kill some invaders. He also killed 185,000 Assyrians and 80,000 more Israelites who were bad for various reasons. Now, again, we are atheists on this show. We don't believe that there's any God in the first place. Some of these people probably did die, and it was just written down in the Holy Book as, credit was given to the God. The point is that the believers in the book believe that God did the things that are credited to him in the Holy Book, and so they follow this monster even though, according to the Holy Book itself, he personally killed more than 399,933 people himself. That is, of course, not counting any of the groups that for which the Bible doesn't give an exact figure, like everybody on earth except for Noah and his family. So that's 399,933 people killed directly by God that the people who wrote the Bible fit to enumerate.
What about the people that God ordered to have
Oh,
killed?
well, let me go on.
Oh, boy.
Again, according to the Bible, the God killed every man in Shechem, sending Jacob's sons to do it. God ordered 3,000 Jews killed who were worshiping a golden calf. Ordered the death of a man gathering wood on Sunday. Ordered the death of the entire nation of Canaan. The city of Heshbon, taken from the Amorites, a bunch of killing there. All of the people of Bashan, 24,000 Jews who followed Baal. All the Midianites except for its virgin girls.
And there were 32,000 of those virgin girls, according to the Bible.
Now, how big does a city have to be in order to have 32,000 virgin girls, do
Funny
you think?
you should ask, because I actually did all the math on this yesterday for the Nonprofit Show. In order to come up with an average of about 32,000 teenage girls or virgin girls, and this covers from the age 0 to 17, you need a city with a population of a little over 300,000, roughly the number of people who were in the city of Tampa around the year 2000.
Wow.
Minus
its virgin girls of Tampa.
Yeah. Everybody in Tampa who lived in Tampa in the year 2000 who wasn't a virgin girl, kill them all, and that's basically what you've got when they wiped out the Midianites. That's pretty impressive.
Was it standard among the ancient Israelites for young ladies to remain virgins until 17? Where'd you get that figure from?
No,
I'm just
that
curious.
was the only calculation I could come up with. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. It would have probably. You figure, when I had relatives a couple centuries ago who got married at 13, and we know that the average age for kids to start having sex now is 16. Yeah. We got a bug in the studio. But, giving them the benefit of the doubt, you'd still, obviously if not every girl under 17 would have been a virgin.
Right.
So,
but some old maids
somewhere
that are still virgins at, 40.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is that I'm pretty sure, how would they go about figuring out who was a virgin and who wasn't?
Let's not even go there quite yet. Continuing, everyone in Jericho, except for Rahab, who was the hooker who betrayed her city. Achan,
God loves hookers at the point.
How do I pronounce this? Achan, and his family, who had nothing to do with it, for stealing. everyone in the cities of Ai, Makkedah, Libnath, Jarmuth, Gedor, Hormah, Arad, Adullam, Bethel, Tappuah, Hepher, Apheth, Lasharon, Madon, Taznach, Megiddo, Kedesh, Jokneam, Dor, Goyim, Tirzah, and all of the Amorites. All the people in all of those cities ordered killed by this deity, now worshipped by Christians.
And Jews.
The men of Bezek totaling 10,004. The people of Jerusalem, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. The people of Zephath, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ekron, and the king of Moab, named Eglon. The army of Sisera, excuse me, I'm having trouble with these ancient names. The army of Sisera and the men of Karkor. 20 cities destroyed by Jeptha at God's command. They didn't even bother to name those cities in the Bible.
That's interesting because we talked about Jeptha not too long ago. He cut a deal with God. He basically said, God, if you let me wipe out these 20 cities, I'll sacrifice the first thing that comes out of my house when I get home. And of course, that was his young daughter, his only child. So,
Oh, that would be a human sacrifice.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it was. So there's 20 cities that Jeptha took out based on a bargain of human sacrifice.
But I'm starting to think that, compared to mass murder on the scale of thousands and hundreds of thousands, one human sacrifice sort of pales in comparison. Let me continue. Samson killed 30 men who solved his riddle, the Philistines, and tons of other people when he died. 50,100 men of the tribe of Benjamin, the Ammonites, the Philistines, and the Amalekites. David killed a whole bunch of people at God's command, totaling 331,269. Solomon killed 3 people. There was all of Jeroboam's extended family, all of Baasha's extended family, 450 prophets of Baal, 793,000 Jewish Baal worshippers, 127,000 Arameans, one man who, because he refused to strike a prophet, an unknown number of Moabites, 172 people, including Jezebel, Ahab's sons, Joram, their priests, and their friends.
And their friends' priests.
And their friends' priests. Thank you. Ahaziah's relatives, numbering 142. All of Baal's followers, and in this case, no number is given, but we can assume the Baal followers already killed in the previous references don't count. Athaliah was killed. Matan, the priest of Baal. 10,002 Edomites and 2 servants. All of the pregnant women in Tirzah.
That's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. That the Bible would account for, we killed 10,002 Edomites and 2 servants. Rawr! It was a glorious day.
That reminds me of an episode of Blackadder, where Blackadder, they have the war, and Blackadder is lying about how many opponents he slew on the battlefield, and he claims that he slew 50,000 peasants. But they don't count, do they? No, only in the case of a tie. Hezekiah killed 20,000 people. 500,000 Israelites killed one another at the command of God. 50,000 Ethiopians. 23,000 Seirites. Haman's army of 510 people. More of that army, 75,300 people. And we're finally done with the things actually listed in the Bible. That totals, are you ready for this, folks? More than 2,017,956 people ordered killed, according to the Bible, by the God of the Bible. This is not even counting 65 entire cities listed in the Bible as destroyed and their residents slain by order of the god, where they didn't bother to give the exact figures of how many dead. Compare that, if you will, just for contrast. In the entire Bible, you know how many people Satan kills? I'll tell
Job's
you.
kids.
Job's kids. Satan kills Job's children in the Bible. And that's only after God told him that he could.
Bummer.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, means put Job's kids on God's total. So, I don't want to hear any more of this nonsense about this God being a God of peace and love.
Yeah.
If you're still following this monster, I just have to ask you why.
It reminds me, the thing I talked about yesterday with this 32,000 virgins. Basically the story is in Numbers chapter 31. Somebody had emailed to ask me about it because I've talked about the virgins before. In a nutshell, the way the story goes, and you can look it up yourself, Numbers chapter 31. According to the Bible, God tells Moses, hey, it's time for you to go kill these people who have strayed from my truth. And so he sends out his armies to kill them. They kill everybody there, all of the men, and they have this big war, and they wipe them all out. But they bring back all of the women, all of the children, and all of their goods, basically as bounty, as a prize for the war. They get back, and Moses is pissed. Why in the world did you bring back the women? The women are the ones who let them...
God is pissed?
No, Moses is
Moses
pissed.
is pissed. Okay.
Why did you bring back the women? The women are the reason these men strayed from God in the first place. Go out there and kill all those women. Kill all of the men, the children that you haven't killed already. Kill all of them, everything except for the virgins, of which there ends up being 32,000 of them. Now, the average fundamentalist preacher who's forced to give a sermon on this, because most of them don't voluntarily give a sermon on this, although sometimes they do. I've seen some wacky stuff in some churches. But the mentality, the excuse, the rationalization for all of this is that the men had it coming. They deserved to die because they turned away from God, and that's God's right to kill them. Although why he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, so his in this situation and in others is a little confusing. But the fundamentalist preachers have gone on to say not only did the men deserve it, the women deserved it because they're the ones who led the men away. And the boy children deserved it because the sins of the father are carried on through the sons, that there's some sort of polluted cosmic bloodline that's passed down from Adam through all of the
And that's why,
male
to this
line.
very day, we think it's just right and proper and just when a man is convicted of murder and executed, that we execute his male children as well.
Sure, or instead.
Or instead.
Why not? Let's start doing that.
That's irony, folks. Yeah. We, in fact, don't do that today, do we?
It's
that's
patently
because
stupid. That's
because our culture is more moral than this God, as described in the book.
The point that I brought up yesterday was that this story's always bothered me. Even when I was a Christian, it seemed absurd and immoral, and the excuses for it and the justifications for it seem to be some of the most vile rationalizations I could possibly come up with. But what turns my stomach is when the fundamentalist preachers end their sermon with but look at the loving mercy and grace of the great Lord above, who spared all of those young virgins so that they could grow up and live a life knowing the one true God and his infinite passion and love. Meanwhile, the Bible doesn't say they were sex slaves, but come on. Oh, we're going to keep all the young virgins, but they're just going to do our dishes?
Yeah. Why especially
stupid.
do you want virgins?
The point that I made yesterday was that if this had been just one family, not an entire city the size of Tampa, 300,000 population, if this had been one family, if I went next door because God didn't like my neighbors and because they had turned away, and I killed the father and the mother and their little boy and kept the little girl for myself, I'm pretty sure I'd be lynched inside of a week, especially if I proudly proclaimed this. It's an abomination whether it's one family, or it's an abomination with one family when you increase that scale to huge cities, that these barbarians just wandered around saying, God said we could have your land and we're going to take your women too.
Then it's mass murder on a scale dwarfing what, the Nazi war machine did in World War II.
It's people getting upset about, we talked about Saddam's atrocities in his rape rooms and, and all the things that he did and everything else. Yeah, I agree. Horrible stuff. And you know what? So is most of the crap that is in this book. And even if you're a liberal believer who doesn't buy into a 6-day literal creation with, Jonah and the whale and Noah's Ark and all this other crap, you're still pushing this same book that's full of all these atrocities. But since we're talking a little bit about morality, we ought to go on to our first caller.
Okay.
Who has a question on that subject. So, Karen, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Hi, Karen.